Climate change is the buzzword these days. It's not just an environmental issue, it's a broader issue that covers livelihoods, the environment itself. The 2 days were quite interactive. Everyone was really putting a good effort. This made this whole experience quite worthwhile, and it allowed me to gain a few perspectives around this whole issue of climate change. So I could say I'm a transformed person. Was I any better off than I was yesterday? Yeah, definitely. Because being involved in this pool of experts, these are people talking about global issues that are trickling down to the African continent, which is our land, and how this whole subject of climate change impacts or has a bearing on the Africa that we want now and the Africa we envision. The guys shared the document, I think a few days, 3 days before the meeting, so I just had a quick perusal just to get a feel of what is it exactly that we're looking at that we would want to validate. I would expect to adopt some of the key strategies or key strategic points that were raised during the interactions. Number one, we need an inclusive approach to this climate change agenda. Inclusive in the strictest sense that it's got to be gender balance, and we need to have more young people involved in the dialogue, because ultimately this is a blueprint that will set Africa on the right path for the Agenda 2063, and highly likely the young people, some that are not even born by now, will inherit this. I hope we're going to have more inclusion of youth, more women involved, just so we have the anticipated outcome so that everyone has a voice in this blueprint. And number two, we need African member states to invest in this climate change issue. There might be some sort of investments that are latently happening in the budget charts. For example, a lot of governments, they set aside monies for disaster risk reduction, which is mitigation in itself, but it's not really screaming out loud. This is a climate fund. The organizers tried to make this as inclusive as possible, and they tried to include everyone, pulling around experts from around the continent, right? So we would have breakaway groups where we had to assign each other tasks on reviewing the document and offer recommendations. We were given task number 3, which entitled reviewing the log framework. The task was to do a thorough review and make sure that the log framework communicates to the vulnerabilities that have been pointed out in previous sections of the document. So we had to see that the log framework and the proposed strategies would definitely offer the solutions for Africa, meant for Africa. And we had to also assess if the strategies and the activities outlined or the interventions were realistic in the purest sense that they are actionable, and can we execute them in the short, mid, and long term. The long term, which is 2063, and the mid term would be 2030. I want to stress the importance of having young people being included. It's always important to make public these platforms where young people can give in their input. That is, if these platforms exist at all, and if they are not in existence, we need to create. So it's important that we include everyone, especially young people, and capitalize on the young demography of Africa.